Right, and we are live. Hey everybody, I am Stuart from NetReady, and this is MLM for CEOs, the channel that is aimed at providing key insights to company owners operating within this lucrative multi-level marketing space. In today's episode, we're going to be speaking about choosing your perfect network jockey. And here to help me unpack that information is a man that has over 35 years experience within this multi-level marketing industry. He's a good friend and mentor of mine. His name is Richard Sletcher.
Hey, nice to see you again, Stu.
Nice to see you again too.
Oh, I love getting back into the studio, I must say.
Well, I mean, the lighting in this place, it's just the hair at the top. There is one hair that is sticking out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I've got about 5.
I was going to say, that's
Okay.
a pot calling the flipping kettle black, if you don't mind me saying so.
Listen, I'm telling you, before I had 3 children, someone should have warned me. Because now I can't do my hair perfectly in the morning.
Is that your excuse?
I don't have my full 8 hours of sleep. I don't follow
Look,
the routine.
I'm going to challenge our audience to go back and have a look at 5 or 6 of our previous, especially ones that are more than 6 months old, and then tell me if the hairstyle has changed much, okay? Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I've been buzzing my hair for a while, and I've decided I'm going to grow it now.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, stop buzzing it, so
All right.
we'll see what happens.
I'm waiting for the Sean Connery look to come back.
Oh, right.
That was good.
Now, what can I say?
Enjoyed that.
Have to do the one with the handlebar moustache, shave all of this stuff. Yeah,
Yes.
no, I don't think so.
The Hulk Hogan one. So, Richard, in this episode, we were speaking about the network jockey and choosing the right jockey. Why do we choose a jockey? What are they for? Who is this person?
Okay, so I mean, the issue is that the company owner has got a lot on his plate or her plate.
Mm-hmm.
They're running the business. They've got to worry about the logistics side of it, the staff side of it. They've got to worry about management and accounting and finances and the manufacture of the product. Everything is on their shoulders. Now, if they have to try and grow the network at the same time, it's just impossible. Now what happens is they become a part-time network marketer, which is what other people who have got full-time jobs are trying to build network marketing in their marketing businesses in their spare time are trying to do. Now, I can tell you right now, building a network is not easy. Okay, it's not an easy thing to do. If you get it right, it's a license to print money.
Sure.
But it is not easy at all. And so you as the company owner, you either have to get full-time management to run your company so you can focus on growing the business, or you need to get a full-time person to just focus on the network. And we call that person the jockey. And then they need to be employed by you. They need to be on a salary. They must not be in any way, shape, or form benefiting from being part of the network. Their family may not be in the network. Their sisters, their uncle, their brother, their wives, their husbands, whatever, may not be in the network.
Why is that?
And the reason being is that you want this person to be completely independent. You don't want to have them to have any biases. You don't want them finding people and then pushing them into the wrong person's network or any of that kind of stuff. They must be totally agnostic when it comes to their bias within the business. There must be no case of them trying to feather their own nest. So when you bring somebody on board, it's an employed position within the business. And their focus, their 110% focus is to grow the network. Go out, do opportunity meetings, run meetings on Zoom and travel around the country or the world and meet with their team leaders, the key people. Make sure that the incentives are driven properly. Make sure that recognition is rolled out properly. Make sure that the newsletters are going out. Their job is just the network. They do nothing else. If a product doesn't arrive at somebody's house, that's not their problem. If there's a problem with the product and it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing or what it says on the tin, not their problem. That's the management's problem. Now, when you look for that guy, if you find a good guy in that space, your business is golden. Because it's all about the network. It's all about the people. This business is a people business.
Sure.
And so you have to find somebody who's going to drive the business, focus on the network, and do nothing else. And they need to be answerable, of course. You don't want somebody who says they're doing something and there's no results. So from a management point of view, you need to be measuring their activity all the time. What is you need to be looking at the metrics and seeing what's happening, all of the KPIs. You need to be seeing what's happening in the network. Is it growing? Are there problems? Your job is to drive the jockey. The jockey's job is to drive the network.
Okay. And what sort of characteristics does this person have?
Look, in my opinion, they need to be a highly skilled salesperson. So we're not looking for the loud sports jacket car salesperson type caricature of what selling is all about. We're looking for a sophisticated person who is highly people oriented, whose first passion is towards people rather than towards selling.
Sure.
But who has a skill set specifically around closing sales.
Yeah.
Because what you want is that person needs to be able to connect, because this is all about connection. They need to make the person that they're dealing with feel loved and cared for. They need to have the integrity of a genuinely skilled salesperson, that they're not going to bring somebody into the business if they know the guy's not going to or the girl's not going to
Sure.
function. They need to have that level of integrity so people will trust them and believe them. So that would be my first thing. And of course, it needs to be somebody like you. If I were to write a network jockey bio, I would describe you to a T. You meet somebody, everybody who meets you loves you. Everybody who, the second they meet you, geez, this is my man,
Yeah.
And you need somebody who has that, but you are highly skilled in terms of marketing and selling. And so I've seen you in front of an audience. You will stand up in front of an audience and you will capture them, and you will talk to them and you'll look into their eyes. And so it's kind of that person. And I have to say, they're not easy to find.
Sure.
If you talk about hen's teeth, that would be an ideal place to use the term hen's teeth.
Right.
They are fairly rare. You've got to look for them. And when you find a good person, they're genuinely not cheap.
Yeah. Okay.
Payday comes and you sit in the corner and whimper like a little girl.
And just rock back and forth. Now, is the network jockey the same as a channel manager?
No.
Okay.
No. So your channel manager generally, if you're in a fairly large corporation, you actually have management in various different segments. So you'll have somebody who's dealing with all of the product manufacturing processes, logistics. So there would be somebody looking after that. You'd have somebody looking after training, developing the training material, etc. You'd have somebody in the marketing department developing all the marketing. You would have an accountant who's doing all of the accounts and making sure commissions are paid. And you'd have your network jockey who is actually building the network. Now, the channel manager is the person who's heading up the MLM channel. So, for example, we've got a client that we're busy talking to at the moment. He's got a business that has got an entire product range that's going into retail. He's got an entire product range that's going into the professional space, like architects, etc. And he's wanting to start a MLM channel. Now, that needs a specific manager who's going to manage all of the aspects.
All the moving parts.
All the moving parts pertaining to that MLM channel. So he's championing the MLM channel. The network jockey reports to him. So he's going to be having meetings with the network jockey saying, these were the targets for this week. You haven't hit them, or you've exceeded them, or whatever. Or we're thinking of putting an incentive together. Let's work on this together and get an incentive together. And the channel manager will be responsible for putting the incentives together, to get the incentive department to find out which destinations we're going to, and to cost that out, and to work out the pricing and how many people can go if we hit certain targets. Channel manager's responsibility will be to oversee and manage that process. The jockey's responsibility will be to take that and implement it with the network. You with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So both of those players are extremely important. Now, the owner of the company can play any one of these roles, but he can't play all of the roles.
Yeah, sure.
And once he starts playing the roles, if the company only does MLM, then he can be the channel manager. But if the company's got more than one focus, you need a channel manager in there. And if he's got the kind of management where he doesn't have to worry about the business at all, then he or she can be the jockey. But I've never met an owner of a company who can actually
fulfill that role as well.
Forget about the business and not worry about the business, and focus all their energies just on growing the network.
Right.
Because where's your mind as the company owner?
Yeah.
You know, that where your gold is, that's where your heart is.
Right.
And they are worried about the overheads, and they worry about the decisions that are being made, etc. So the guys who own the companies generally not best at being the jockeys. They can be the channel manager, but the guys who are the jockeys really can't run the business.
Right. And I guess as a company owner, in setting out what the operating costs of your business are going to be, this network jockey is obviously there's a salaried expense, but they need to be mobile. They need to be traveling around. Are you covering costs of S&T?
Yeah, so you've got to have a budget for this. You know, if you're going into this thing, so many of our clients come in and they think, oh, this is going to be easy because 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 1,655,000, let's go shopping for Porsches.
Yeah.
They don't see the amount of effort that is required to actually, acquire the network. So a network marketer acquisition is a massive job to get that person in. And the second thing is to retain that person. So your two big challenges are acquiring the networker and then retaining them. Your third big challenge is making sure that networker understands how to sell the products and how to recruit people. So there's a whole training element to that. And so the guys actually don't understand the amount of effort that goes into building a network, and they think they can do it themselves. And so what happens is something slips through the cracks. Either they build a massive network and they come short on the stock side and the logistics side and all of that side of things, or they're running an excellent operation and the network never grows.
Sure.
You know? And then there's other guys who, smack that around. Naughty. There's other guys who will say, okay, well, we'll get started and we'll bootstrap this thing and we'll bring somebody in down the road. And the problem is once this thing gets going, if it ramps fast, it's very difficult to find a good person at short notice.
Yeah.
And then they'll end up getting somebody who's useless and the guy tanks their business or the girl tanks their business for them. So, you know, this is something for me that should be part of your plan. You should have identified the right person. You should bring that person on. If you have to give that person a potential share of the company, so be it, because that person who's the jockey, who's going to grow your business, they are key to everything. And if you've got the right person, you want to hang on to them with everything you've got.
I know what typically happens when these businesses grow. So they say they want to bootstrap it. They don't want to employ the network jockey, that they'll find the jockey as they go along. But what happens when the network ramps, instead of taking an external person and plugging them in to manage the network, they're taking a top performer in the network and they're making them the jockey.
What a disaster.
But this is the issue you mentioned before. They're feathering their own nest. They are going to do that. There's hidden agendas, even if the discussion is that there won't be. And we've seen it. It's a complete disaster.
Yeah. And look, you also don't want to scuttle your network. Your top networker is doing a really good job for you. Why would you want to take them out of the field? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Rather bring somebody in on a salary basis, make them the sort of the jockey, so they are heading up, running the network within that channel, and empower them to do the things that you were doing before. So if you did bootstrap it, when you bring somebody in, that person needs to take over. You need to detach from that and let them actually grow the network for you.
Okay. And setting these KPIs, these expectations of the network jockey, this is a very time consuming effort for this person to go through, him or her. You know, there's commitments. I have to have a Zoom session every Tuesday and Thursday, speaking about the business, speaking about the product. I have to spend time away from the family. There's a lot of expectations you need to set as a company owner with this jockey to make sure that they agree to those expectations, and then you set KPIs to measure the performance that they're having in the business.
Yeah,
you know, so I can see how it's difficult to find this person.
Yeah, look, you actually need somebody who's got management skills, that has run a sales team before.
Yeah.
I was recently, I think you sent it through to me a couple of days ago. I was busy putting together for one of our clients, a employment bio of who we're looking for.
Yes.
And as I went through it, the more I went through it, the more I was worried that we weren't going to be able to find a person like this, because they are rare.
Yeah.
And especially somebody who's good. And understand, you are starting a multi-million-dollar business when you start an MLM business. And you need somebody good who can visualize massive, who understands how these businesses grow, who understands what exponential growth is all about, who understands how to drive a business to critical mass and get the sales happening and the recruiting happening, who's got a huge work ethic, because they're out there in the evenings, Monday to Friday, doing in-home presentations with their network. They're on the stage doing presentations 2 or 3 times a week in different towns around the country. They are training people to get those people to work. They are calling and connecting with all of the top leadership to make sure that those leaders are doing what needs to be done. They're firing off emails and doing Zoom meetings. And so the work ethic has to be huge. You know, you got to have a person who's prepared to go for a month around the country and go and touch base with all of their key leaders. And this concept of doing it over Zoom, yes, Zoom has its place, but nothing beats the belly-to-belly stuff. Getting into the same room with the person, getting them to do a demonstration for you, taking that person into the field where you can witness their demonstration to see what's going wrong. You know, going and analyzing problems. If you've got somebody whose network isn't growing, one of your leaders, you go and sit with them and see what they're doing, see how they're interacting with their people, try and troubleshoot what the problem is. You can't have a person who's a clock watcher, 9 to 5 person. That just doesn't work in that space. So you got to find a person who you incentivize them with some sort of overall percentage on the company. If they hit targets, you give them target-based incomes.
Sure.
You want them to earn massive amounts of money because they are the sort of
the driving force of your network.
They're the goose that lays the golden egg, so to say. And so you want to pay them extremely well. You never want to lose them. And then you want to make sure that they have the ability to go out there, the ethic, the work ethic to go out there and do what is necessary.
Right.
And when you take them on, you need to tell them, listen, it's not a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to incentivize you with a percentage of the turnover, whatever the incentive is. But this ain't 9 to 5. And if you want a 9 to 5 job, you want to be home with the kids at 5 o'clock in the evening, and you want to be home with them on the weekends, this is not for you.
Sure.
You know? But if you are wanting to drive this business and help us make millions, and in the process make millions yourself, then this is where you need to be. So it's a different kind of animal that you're looking for here. It's not your traditional salesperson or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
This is high energy, high focus, huge work ethic.
So, I mean, the big question is, where do we find this person? How do we go about finding? How do we go about searching for them?
Yeah, look, Stuart, I'm going to take that porcupine and I'm going to throw it right back into your lap. So the big question is, how do you find this person? How do you go about isolating this kind of individual and getting them to come for an interview and getting them to decide to work for your business? How do you do that?
That's a great question, Richard. Thank you for asking it. What I've found is one of the greatest platforms to find these types of people, at least find a group of these people, and then filter is through LinkedIn. You can do this as a free job post, or you could put a bit of budget behind it to extend the number of candidates that come in. But LinkedIn is a space that people are putting their CVs out for free. And you can gather all of those CVs just by posting that ad, they reply. But then the filtering process is actually where it really becomes very important. And how I see this playing out, and I've seen it before, is that you select a group of 5 or 6 top candidates, and then you give them a product presentation that you've created as a company owner, and a business opportunity. How do I present my business? You give it to them in a video format, and then you give it to them in a PowerPoint presentation. And the key thing to do
the products, I suppose.
Or the products.
Yep.
And then you want them to come and pitch it to you. And then you see how well they can pitch that business and that product presentation to you, and how well you connect with them. Because again, it's a belly-to-belly business, and it's how well I connect with that person. And if I establish that connection and they are good at those two things, well, then you found your top candidates and potentially your network jockey.
And obviously in the advert, you're saying, listen, this is not a 9-to-5 job.
Of course.
You know, we are going to incentivize you with a piece of the turnover, but at the end of the day, you're going to be working your guts out. If you're not that person, don't come. So by the time you get to them doing that presentation, they've said that they really are the kind of person you're looking for.
Sure.
And then what you're saying is that you are testing them to see whether they've actually take the time and put in the effort to learn the presentation and the pitch to a point that it actually works. So you want to see, and that talks to work ethic here.
Sure. Yeah.
And then the second thing is you want to see how effective they are at it. You know, they obviously have to bring their own personality, the whole thing. And how's that been going?
Well, we've run it with a couple of clients before, and exceptionally well.
Okay.
We have found that the right people, and they're performing well within the network. Managing the network. You know, the work ethic that has been identified in the job search process has become clear in how they're actually driving the network. So it's an impressive strategy in which to approach to find this jockey, which is one of the toughest parts about running this MLM business.
Now, a big thing here is, and this is a lot of people ask us, our clients ask us this, is how much do you pay these people?
Right.
And that is a difficult one because the really good people are just not cheap. You know, you can pick up somebody useless at a pretty low price, but you need to work out what is this going to cost you long term. Remember, you're starting a multi-million-dollar business. You're not starting a $2.50 business.
Sure.
You know, these businesses can scale to $5, $6, $7, $10 million a month easily. And that we're not talking about the big businesses. You know, this is just average MLM businesses. And so when you're bringing somebody on board, and if your mindset is we're starting a $10 million a month business, then how much do you pay that person?
Right.
How much is a person worth to you if they bring you $10 million a month in revenue?
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself that question. And so it's really important that you put together a proper package on the table that will incentivize and enthuse a heavy hitter.
Right.
Because it is such a critical part of the business. Without the network, you don't have a business.
Right. I guess it comes down to the confidence that you have within the business. How is this business going to perform? If I know that it's going to be a $10 million company, then I know I need to put the right people in place. In the beginning stages, I'm going to fork out the right amount of money to attract them and keep them.
Exactly.
But it's all in the confidence.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Richard. I think this has been a very fruitful episode. I hope that everyone else has thought the same.
Yeah, well, I hope so as well.
Guys out there, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time dedicated to Richard and I. Please follow us on all of our social channels. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're also on Facebook and LinkedIn. LinkedIn, there it is again. It's a beautiful platform that you can find your network jockey.
Yep, exactly.
Join us again next week. See you next time. Bye.